G'day, this is Vineet, and in this course we're going to be following the quick start guide to build the TodoApp. In this lesson we're going to build the domain layer using MVC/Razor Pages and EF Core on top of ABP Framework 5.0 using Visual Studio 2022. So here we are in Visual Studio 2022, and in this lesson we're going to be working on the domain layer. So the projects that relate to the domain are the TodoApp.domain and TodoApp.domain.shared. So first we'll create an entity. So I'm going to create a new folder in the domain project and call it TodoApp. And in this folder we're going to create a new class. And the class is simply going to have a text field. So we'll just put in a property which is prop string text, and we're going to call this class TodoItem, and it's going to inherit from the basic aggregate root of type GUID, because GUID is going to be its primary key. And this basic aggregate root is actually a base class in volo.abp.domain.entities. So this is our base entity of and we've actually said that the primary key in the table is going to be of type GUID. So now that we've got that, we're going to basically save that file and make sure that we call the class itself TodoItem. So now that we've got our entity, we're going to actually go ahead and do the database integration so that we can create the table for the TodoItems. So in 5.5 version, 5.0 version of ABP, you can notice that we don't have a migrations project for the entity core framework. They've actually amalgamated the migrations within the entity framework core. And what we'll do is we'll go into the entity framework core to do DB context, and we will add our DB set in here. So we'll just go down here and say TodoItems, and we will have a property of type DB set of type TodoItems, and we'll just go and add the using statement. That's it, and we'll close that out and we'll name it TodoItems. So there we have the DB set, and down here we're going to comment in these lines, and we're going to just put our entity in here, which is TodoItem, and this builder.entity is going to create a table in our database. The TodoApp is basically the constant, which is a string, so the table should get app TodoItems, and if we just go in here, we'll just put in TodoItems. So the table name will be app TodoItems in our database. Schema is just null, and we are using this configure by convention. So we will just drag that in because it's coming from volo.abp.entityframeworkcore.modeling. And this basically auto configures for the base classes and properties and so forth that get inherited from the basic aggregate root. So we'll save that, and I've got the package manager console open over here. I've made sure that I've selected the entity framework core, and I'm going to run the command add migration, and I'm going to call it added to do item, and this should create a migration in our entity framework core project. So the build has started. Okay, so the build has succeeded, and we can see that there's a migration that has been added that is called added to do item, and you can see that the up method in here basically creates our app to do items. It's creating these columns, which is basically the ID field, which is GUID, and it's a required field because nullable is false, and it's got the text and nullable is true there, so it can be a blank. And we've got the primary key here being set to the ID column. And then the downgrade is basically dropping that table. Okay, now that we've added the migration, we will now update the database. So let's say update dash database, and the build has started. Okay, the build has succeeded, and it has applied the migration. So let's go to our SQL Server, and we'll refresh these tables to see if there's an app to do items, and we can see that there's an app to do items table there, and the columns are basically just ID, which is a unique identifier, which is a GUID, and we've got a column there called text. So it's done the right thing. So in this lesson, we've created the domain layer, we've created the entity, and then we've gone through and added that migration for that entity, and then applied the migrations to get that table generated in our database. So join me in the next lesson, where we're going to be working on the application layer. Thanks for watching.